What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sly Jordy, and welcome back to F1 25 driver career mode for the Sao Paulo Brazilian Grand Prix. Round 21, episode 21 of our career mode, and what an episode it was last time out. Very much like the Texas Grand Prix, where we had to do multiple stops, but we ended up doing a 3-stop in Mexico because of 2 safety cars. We made the wrong strategy call for our first pit stop, and that pretty much offset us for the rest of the Grand Prix, unfortunately. But we were able to salvage it and claim a P6 for our troubles. And first of all, I want to address a comment that I got last episode about our performance, throughout the season. Somebody complained that I'm consistently getting top 5s, and while that is happening lately, throughout most of the season, as you can tell, that has been the case, to be fair, actually. But there's an easy explanation for that. If you just have a look at the results for the Ferrari drivers, Yuki Tsunoda, and the Mercedes drivers, they have just not been performing nearly as well as they probably should do, which has resulted in us coming in, P4 right now, and Piastri has had 4 DNFs this season, so that's the reason why we're pretty close to him as well. That's just how the career mode has gone. My difficulties are not too low or anything like that. That's just how the other drivers have been performing. Ferrari, they have been really inconsistent. Yuki Tsunoda has not been that good. And to be fair, if it was matching real life, he would be nowhere near as good as he is in this career mode, so he would be even lower. Russell has been dealing with a really, really bad Mercedes car. Antonelli has not been doing that good neither. That's just how it is. It's to the point that Williams have now overtaken Mercedes in the constructors, so it's really not my fault that we're doing so good compared to those drivers. If you've been tuning into every episode, I have been saying the whole time that we should at some point be seeing better results from the Ferraris and maybe Russell at some point, maybe even Tsunoda, and get overtaken by all of them. But in the last few races, they have been as inconsistent as ever. Leclerc, a P8 and a DNF. Look at Hamilton, P14, P10, P9. Russell, P19, P12, P8, P9, DNF. We've not really been running into those guys throughout the races. We have just been... I've just been driving as normal. That's how it's been the whole season, unfortunately. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. I understand if people don't like that in terms of content, and yeah, again, completely understand. If you don't want to watch anymore, that's fine by me, but don't come at me in the comment section accusing me of having a lower difficulty or whatever when you've clearly not been paying attention to what the rest of the grid is going through. So again, Ferrari inconsistent. Tsunoda is nowhere near as good as Verstappen, and in fact he should be doing even worse if real life is in the equation. Mercedes have been really bad this season in our career mode. I have stated it numerous times. Mercedes have never usually been that good in the career mode since I've been playing, doing it on YouTube anyway. Since F1 23, Mercedes have just not been good in the career mode. Even in other people's career modes, you look at Arava last year, the Mercedes was a horrible car to drive for him. It's just not that good in the career mode. And it's to the point that even Williams have overtaken them, It's a shame that Aston Martin haven't been doing too good, but to be fair, Aston Martin have not been doing too good in real life. So, it can't really be helped, to be honest. We have gotten a bit lucky with DNFs from Piastri, so we are able to fight for a potential P3 in the constructors, in the drivers, sorry, even though we probably shouldn't be able to. But again, that's just how the cookie has crumbled for Piastri, unfortunately. I think his driver rating should be a lot better, but it really doesn't help that he's DNFing this much compared to Lando, compared to Verstappen. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly address that. In terms of vehicle, new parts being fitted, we are going to be taking a grid penalty going into the next Grand Prix because I need a new energy store. As for everything else, we are completely fine, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Actually, we're near 50% on the ICE, so we're going to be starting at the back of the grid in the Brazilian Grand Prix because we'll be taking a new ICE and a new energy store. So keep an eye out for that. In fact, I might even skip qualifying. We might do like one lap of qualifying just to see how it feels and then not bother because we know we're going to be starting at the back of the grid anyway. But before we get into the Brazilian Grand Prix, we have got our third and final secret meeting with Aston Martin. We're looking to join them for the 2026 season. They've got Adrian Newey at the helm. I'm hoping that our teammate will be Fernando Alonso next season and not Lance Stroll, because if it's Alonso and we have a good car, we could be battling for our first Constructors' Championship as well as a Drivers' Championship. That's my hope, you know? Obviously, it's not guaranteed we'll be fighting for a driver's title in Season 2, but that's usually how it goes in most people's career mode, including ours. So we'll just see what happens. But let's go to this final secret meeting with Aston Martin. Look at how many people are here, and we're being welcomed by all of them. This is going to be quite a productive meeting, I assume. And look at this, our hopes, and look at that, yeah. So our recognition will unfortunately be 37%. At least that's their hopes anyway. So obviously we can negotiate a better contract at the end of the season and get that recognition a bit higher. But it looks as though we are able to have Fernando Alonso as our teammate. Aston Martin are finally getting serious about championships and getting rid of Lance Stroll, which is a great choice in my opinion. But yeah, we're going to complete talks, and obviously we're going to want to go to Aston Martin for Season 2 and maybe the foreseeable future as well.
Been scouring the socials and asking around, and I'm delighted to say that the team are none the wiser about us chatting with anyone else. And the meeting went well too. I know. I'm amazing. You're welcome.
Whatever, I don't care. Anyway, it is time to skip ahead to Sao Paulo. Fingers crossed we don't get any wet races, because the new patch has just been announced, and still it has not been addressed that AI are extremely overpowered in the rain. I don't know why that's not been addressed. I've been putting it out to EA since Beta 1. I called it out right then and there, but I only saw about less than a handful of posts from other people. Everybody was just too busy playing dry races, too busy playing multiplayer, and they didn't even bother playing wet races. So I don't even blame EA for not knowing about it until around now. We'll probably get a fix in the next patch, but I absolutely don't blame them for not knowing, because none of us, well, I was, but none of you playing the Beta 1 or Beta 2 or Beta 3 were calling it out. None of you, so anybody complaining that EA have not fixed it yet, mate, they probably didn't even know about it, because the posts that were telling them about it were drowned out by the same regurgitated handling posts and AI in the dry, blah blah blah, but it looks like it's a sprint weekend once more in Brazil. I don't know if it was in F1 24, but looks like it is here. So I think we will still try sprint qualifying and the sprint, because if F1 23 was anything to go by, I don't think grid penalties necessarily affect the sprint. I don't know if that's changed now. We'll find out this episode, but qualifying will be the one where we only really do one lap maybe and then skip it, or maybe we'll just skip directly to the race. That saves me time in editing and whatnot, whatever. So looking at messages now, we've got developments that have failed, but that's fine. I'm not really paying attention to that at this point. Let's have a look at the R&D tree, see whoever's brought upgrades in. McLaren and Red Bull still bringing upgrades in. Aston Martin, I've got a major upgrade in, and everybody else, I mean, we've brought a minor upgrade in. Kick Sauber, Alpine, and Haas. So pretty much everybody except from Williams and Ferrari have brought in upgrades for this weekend. That is absolutely crazy. Preparing for new regs and still upgrading the car is insane. So yeah, we've only got 4 races left of this season. It has been a long season. I do regret not doing the 16 race season, but honestly the series has been doing really well. I'm really thankful to you guys for the amount of support that we have gotten throughout, and I'm looking forward to finishing up this season and providing a lot more seasons for the rest of this year until F1 26. I'm aiming for about 5 seasons as I did for F1 23. If we end up doing more than that, we'll see. And Yeah, and my team is coming. I am going to do at least 3 seasons of my team. That's going to be a fully live stream series. So we'll get that going a little bit more after wrapping up this season. I think I'll do about 2 or 3 live streams before starting season 2 for this one. But that's going to be a lot more of a slower series throughout this year. We'll see, because obviously I've just, finished up the Dark Souls trilogy, which was about 50 plus videos. That's took me about 4 months. So we do have a lot more time now for F125. We'll see, because I've also got the ranked multiplayer series to do as well. Either way, let's get into sprint qualifying for the Brazilian Grand Prix.
It's a Saturday showdown. Anyone fancy some hot laps around Interlagos? It's qualifying day here for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
Welcome to Sao Paulo, one of my favourite tracks on the F1 calendar, up there with Bahrain and Spa. Definitely in my top 3, and I'm really looking forward to driving around this track once more. I wonder how different it is compared to previous games, of course, against other players, as we've experienced in ranked. It's not too different. It's as satisfying as ever. But against the AI, this is a very different AI to how they were in F123, especially in terms of their acceleration and how they fight you. So I'm really, really intrigued as to how Brazil feels different in this game compared to F123, even F124. But obviously, as you know, we're taking grid penalties going into this Grand Prix, both the sprint and the Grand Prix, at least judging from today's Formula 1 rules. Of course, in F123, that didn't really apply to the sprint. We'll see how that is here. But yeah, I still wanted to do a lap in sprint qualifying just to see, just to get a representation of how we stack up against the rest of the grid. So, judging from where Hajar is placed, P18, not a good sign, but of course he is the worst rated driver on the grid, unfortunately. It's really not fair, but it is what it is. Let's see where we finish, though. Hopefully in the top 10 as we cross the line. How fast are we compared? It is another P8, so that seems to be pretty much what we're getting quite a lot in the last few episodes. Of course, no real surprises looking around. We've got Esteban Ocon in P5, Sainz in P3, George Russell, Mercedes in the P7, Leclerc P10, but other than that, no real surprises. It's time to get into the sprint.
Forget pit stops, forget fuel management. It's pedal to the metal all the way here as we get ready for today's sprint. We're racing today then at Interlagos, a historic 2.7 mile circuit and one of the few anti-clockwise tracks on the calendar. 15 corners in total, 9 to the left and 6 to the right, with a technical middle section opening up to a flat-out Sector 3. That gives us our best passing opportunity down into Turn 1. And alongside me today, former Formula 1 driver and former world champion too. See, told you I'll give you a big intro. Anthony Davidson, hello. Well, they say that a change is as good as a rest, and whilst there's not much rest on show in the sprint format today, there's definitely a change to what we're usually seeing on the track. Interlagos, always one of my favourite weekends of the season. Love Brazil, adore this track.
Absolutely spot on, Crofty. I wish you could pick this circuit up and place it, copy-paste it on multiple different locations around the planet, because it is sensational to watch, sensational to drive, and for all these drivers here in Brazil, it's a great time to get stuck into this Interlagos circuit. It's an anti-clockwise track, lots of important corners to get right, and it's a track where you can make or lose an awful lot of lap time.
Okay, we might be at the back of the grid and it's not the best place to start, but keep your chin up and push hard. It's Formula 1. Anything can happen.
Yeah, we know. So this is a very familiar situation. If you guys remember the Brazil episode for Season 1 of F123, my team, I also took grid penalties there as well. Now, in that game, we ended up winning the entire Grand Prix. Using Max Verstappen and the DRS to our advantage. But I don't think that's going to happen this time round as we wait for the 5 red lights to go out. We're underway, and it is a pretty decent start from us. Hadjar actually cuts us off, so it's 3 wide going into turn 1 along with Bortoletto. Behrman is there as well, just on the left of us, alongside Nico Hulkenberg. We're going to get past Bortoletto, and yeah, Hadjar, instant karma for him, completely cutting us off. Of all people he could have cut off, why did it have to be me? Either way, instant karma for him. He ends up down in P20 as we now look to follow the duo of Oliver Behrman and Nico Hulkenberg. Behrman actually comes out on top against the Sauber, so it's good for him. I see a space to the left-hand side. I had a look. I actually had an attempt, but Hulkenberg cut that off right away, and in response, I dived down the inside of both him and Behrman, looking to make a move around the outside here, but AI acceleration comes into play, and Behrman still able to keep the position. We're going to dive down the inside once more, and this time shut the door a little bit, leave a bit of space, but yeah, there you go. So already it's a little bit more difficult to make overtakes compared to F123. Of course, F123 didn't have AI acceleration the way that these previous 2 F1 games have had. So yeah, Brazil feels drastically different to how it did in that game, but you know, so far so good. Up into P16 from P20. It's not a bad start as we now look to settle behind the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. Not a very good qualifying for him, seemingly, as we look to dive down the inside once more. I love diving down the inside in Sector 2, but look at that acceleration and the amount of grip that Fernando Alonso has there, and that's what we're unfortunately going to have to contend with. It is already lap 5. I didn't tell you guys, but you probably noticed we skipped to lap 5. It's not really been an eventful Grand Prix, to be fair, since we finished up lap 1. We've kind of been stuck in P16 as we now look ahead on lap 7. Alonso looking to make a move past the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli. It's a good move for Alonso right there. They've lost a bit of time to the Alpine in front. I think that might be doing. I'm not too sure. But now we've got a new driver to try and overtake, and that is the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli, which shouldn't be too difficult compared to Alonso. That Mercedes is dog water, as it has been all season, as we look to settle in behind him. I'm not going to dive down the inside just yet. I still want to see if we can chase down Fernando Alonso, of course, but there's a big slowdown here, a big DRS train up ahead of us, and that allows us to get the move done on Kimi Antonelli. Lap 9, we now are back to setting our sights on Fernando Alonso. I'm going to dive down the inside once more to try and get this move done, and this time we're going to use ERS around this corner, squeeze Alonso out, so the AI back off there and not have that acceleration. Practically a cheat code on some of these later tracks of the season, it seems. But yeah, there you go. We managed to get the move done on Alonso, but it's not. We're not done yet. We still have some people ahead of us, of course, doing in P12. Lance Stroll in P11. Maybe if there's a big crash up ahead, we could really move up the order. There's a big battle. I think it is for like P8. Maybe like the final points paying position on the grid, but as we now skip on to lap 11, not much has really happened right here as we still look to chase down Jack Doohan going around this corner right here, and suddenly Fernando Alonso diving up our inside and smashes us off track. That is huge damage to our side pod. That is, wow, what was Alonso thinking right there? I believe there was a bit of space to the inside and he decided to take that chance. I was really not expecting that from the AI at all. That completely took me off guard. I remember playing it and I was like, whoa! And just absolutely just a kamikaze dive from Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. It's really not a good situation between two future teammates. Hitting me off track there. He definitely lost a part of his wing. We've got damage to our side pod, but we do manage to keep the position just about ahead of Fernando Alonso. So yeah, but that's going to be a bit more difficult with the amount of side pod damage that we do have. However, up ahead, Albon fighting with Doohan. So Albon has really fell down the order. That's a lot of tyre wear for the Williams. compared to where he was earlier in front of that entire DRS train. But looks like we could possibly make a move on Albon as we look to dive down the inside, hitting his front tyre a little bit. Not the cleanest overtake, but we're up into P12. It's not really important in the grand scheme of things. You need to be in the top 8 for the sprint, but this has been a slog of a sprint race for us. Definitely one of the more frustrating races of the season, as Max Verstappen wins the sprint race and we cross the line to come home into P12. We got to start all over again in the Grand Prix. This isn't like F123 where the sprint race was practically a qualifying in itself. No, we're going to start all over again as we move into the Grand Prix. But yeah, Max Verstappen finishes in P1. We've got the two McLarens finishing up the podium and Carlos Sainz P4, followed by George Russell in the Mercedes P5. Let's go to the Grand Prix.
Welcome along then to where heroes and history are made. It's where the 2008 title was decided in the very final corner. And just 1 year later, Jenson Button stormed through from 14th on the grid to claim his one and only Drivers' Championship. It's time then for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. We're racing today then at Interlagos, a historic 2.7-mile circuit and one of the few anti-clockwise tracks on the calendar. 15 corners in total, 9 to the left and 6 to the right, with a technical middle section opening up to a flat-out Sector 3. That gives us our best passing opportunity down into Turn 1. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday and he'll start from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Hülkenberg, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Gasly, Piastri, Russell, Ocon, and Max Verstappen, Antonelli, Albon, Jack Doohan, and Behrman, Hadjar, Sainz, Lance Stroll, and the rookie, Bortoletto, and Yuki Tsunoda rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And alongside me in the commentary box today, a man who I always look up to, which is easier said than done, Anthony Davidson. And let's talk momentum with this driver. What a sprint it was. They start at 0 once again for today, but with a huge amount of confidence, surely. Well, they'll definitely be glad that there's not a sprint race today. Let's face it, the sprint couldn't have gone much worse, but what we're looking for today is a reaction. Interlagos, always one of my favourite weekends of the season. Love Brazil, adore this track.
Absolutely spot on, Crofty. I wish you could pick this circuit up and place it, copy-paste it on multiple different locations around the planet, because it is sensational to watch, sensational to drive. And for all these drivers here in Brazil, it's a great time to get stuck into this Interlagos circuit. It's an anti-clockwise track, lots of important corners to get right, and it's a track where you can make or lose an awful lot of lap time.
Okay, let's try not to worry about being down here at the back. You've got the speed, you've got the car, so just take it easy and the race will come to you.
Alright, so in terms of strategy, there's high tyre wear around here, so just like the last couple of Grand Prix, we are once again going for a two-stop in this race. Mediums to hards, this time that is set in stone. We're not going to come up with, we're not going to do the same issue that we had in Mexico, of course, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to this race. You know, the main difference between the Grand Prix and the sprint race is if you're not able to make any progress outright on track, you can make a lot of progress in the pits with the strategy. However, with the two-stop, we're going to be doing one more stop more than, you know, the other drivers or some other drivers. Of course, some people like us will also be going for a two-stop, as we saw last episode, of course, with Max Verstappen going for the two-stop as well, among some other drivers. I don't know where this is going to end up, though. P18 is where we're starting as we wait for the 5 red lights to go out. And we are underway as Lando Norris makes a good getaway ahead of Leclerc. Hulkenberg looking to get past Alonso as we are now looking to get past a lot of cars here, diving down the inside, looking to get beside Oliver Behrman here and maybe past him. Yes, we do. And now we look to follow Doohan. So up from P18 into P14, of course, a couple of drivers behind us had grid penalties larger than ours. So maybe a 30-second grid penalty. I don't know. As we now look to dive down the inside of Jack Doohan. This is a really, really good start for us up into P13. So that is really wonderful right there. A lot of cars being held up at the beginning of this Grand Prix compared to what happened in the sprint races. We now look to dive down the inside of the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli, who is becoming quite the familiar face, or the familiar car, but he is able to keep the position ahead of us. We're going to have another bite of the cherry here. Once again, diving down the inside. This time we're going to shut the door on him, give him a little bit of a squeeze going around this corner with ERS, and we're up into P12. So we've already made as much progress on this first lap as we did throughout the entire sprint race. That is the difference between how the AI were driving in that race versus how they were driving in this race. So really good start for us. I'm really excited to see where this goes. Of course, we're going to have a big grip advantage in our second and third stints, but for now, this is where our pace is at. This is probably where we're going to stay for a while if the sprint was anything to go by. But as we move on to lap 3, still following Albon. Albon himself in the Williams looking to make an overtake past Esteban Ocon in the Haas. And yeah, he manages to get the move done, it seems. Ocon is still fighting, though. Wow, what a fight between these two as we now look to make it 3 wide. They've cost each other enough time for us to finally make a move right here. We're going to dive down the inside. Both us and Ocon still battling here side by side. Look at this battling here. This is absolutely fantastic as we go around the outside and we manage to win out in that exchange now. So we are up into points paying positions, up into P10. We've got Max Verstappen ahead of us, followed behind Russell in the Mercedes, Gasly in the Alpine, Hamilton, Ferrari, Piastri, McLaren. Nico Hulkenberg doing a good job in the Kick Sauber, staying in P4. I would have thought he would have dropped off the field much quicker. He did have a good start to the Grand Prix, moving past Alonso, but it seems Alonso managed to keep P3. Lando Norris leads ahead of Charles Leclerc. But for us, it is P10. The job is not done yet, though. We don't have DRS anymore. Esteban Ocon, however, does. We're going to go defensive to the inside. It's side by side once more. But, yeah, we defend that really well. And we manage to keep P10. So, yeah, a really good first stint for us in these first 5 laps, already in the points paying positions. I wonder where we're going to end up as the Grand Prix progresses, as we now move on to the onboard of Oscar Piastri, lap 6, looking to make a move on Nico Hulkenberg, who has unsurprisingly dropped out of DRS range of the top 3. This should be a really easy move for Oscar Piastri as he moves past. However, that was before the DRS detection point, so Nico Hulkenberg is going to have another bite of the cherry here. Still side by side, he's still hanging on. This is great racing from the Kick Sauber and the McLaren here. Side by side, Hulkenberg's got DRS and he is able to reclaim P4. A really good race from Nico Hulkenberg right there, as we also look towards the front as Charles Leclerc dives down the inside. This is for the race lead, ladies and gentlemen, as Lando Norris defends that pretty well. Both cars on hard tyres. Leclerc moving down the inside. He's going to give Norris the squeeze, and he might just keep the position right there. He does have DRS. Lando does not. And that is a pretty good move from the Ferrari. That is going to be sorely needed after such a torrid season for the Italian outfit, as we now look back onto the battle between Piastri and Hulkenberg. It looks as though Piastri has learned his lesson this time, hanging back going into turn 1. He will have DRS. He's already got the move done, but he has DRS now, and that is Piastri able to claim P4 for probably the foreseeable future. He definitely had much better tyre wear as well, as we now move back onto our view. Yeah, we made no real progress, at least versus the cars in front. We were able to get away from the cars behind, though, so mostly a successful late stint. Anyway, of course, the first part of the stint was really successful. As we now come into the pits, Yuki Tsunoda behind us is also pitting. We're going on to the mediums, another set of mediums once more, and yeah, a pretty good pit stop right there. It's been a long time since the pit crew failed us, so hopefully that's not a bad omen for any future races where it might be a little more important. I don't know. I have got no idea where I'm going to be towards the end of the race. Usually you're able to kind of call it to see how fast or slow people are moving, but honestly, the AI acceleration is so huge around here that we don't have the same advantage as we had in Mexico, where we were able to make up a lot of time in the corners. In Brazil, a lot of the AI are making up a lot of time on the corner exits. So yeah, I have got no idea where we could end up as we now look to overtake Kimi Antonelli. I don't think he's pit yet, which is why this move is so easy. Very familiar car at this point, moving round the outside. That is P16 on the road as of right now, but I've got no idea where we're going to be in the grand scheme of things. Of course, up ahead of us is Nico Hulkenberg, surprisingly being held back by Carlos Sainz here. This is really inconvenient. Sainz is nowhere in this race. Nico Hulkenberg was definitely somewhere, high flying in the Kick Sauber, but he is being held back by the Williams of Sainz. He is able to overtake him eventually, but the damage might already be done. Hulkenberg should be well ahead of us, but he really isn't. He's actually... we can see him from where we're at, and that really shouldn't be the case considering where Hulkenberg was at earlier. But we're following Carlos Sainz here, following us, chasing down Carlos Sainz. We'll be looking to dive down the inside at some point as Sainz is very, very slow. It's a very long stint for him on the mediums. I think he is going for a one-stop, which is clearly the wrong decision for Williams right now. We're not actually going to dive down the inside. We're actually going to hang back because we've got a load of grip around the outside here. It's a beautiful move. Unfortunately, we're not going to get DRS, but honestly, Sainz is going to be so slow on that corner exit, and we're going to have so much ERS that I don't think it's going to matter anyway, as you can tell, as we're now on the onboard of Sainz. He's making no real progress catching up to us, and yeah, that is a really, really good overtake for us. P14 as we now look to set our sights on the battling Doohan and Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg will really be wanting to make up as much time as possible. It's a really good move for him, but yeah, I think Sainz caused Hulkenberg quite a lot of damage there, unfortunately, as we now look to set our sights on Jack Doohan. He does have DRS as well, but the corner exit, he was so much slower since he's on his first stint as well. I think he's trying to hold up cars for his teammate Pierre Gasly, it seems. But we managed to make the move past him. We're up into P13. We're really not making moves nearly as quickly as we were in Mexico. So Brazil is a lot more difficult this year, as Hulkenberg is now stuck behind our teammate Isaac Hadjar. So we'll be thanking him over the radio because he is really holding Hulkenberg back here. Enough for us to dive down the inside. Of course, Hulkenberg's going to have the acceleration to stay in front of us. But we're going to have another bite of the cherry diving down the inside, and we'll still be getting DRS because of our teammates. So we're going to be able to complete that move on Hulkenberg. This race has completely fallen apart for the Kick Sauber of Hulk right there. You got to feel bad for him because he was really up the order before, but Sainz and ourselves have really ruined it for him as we now look to make the move past our teammate of Isaac Hadjar. Hopefully we can do this in a way that allows Hadjar to stay in front of Hulkenberg. That means he'll be able to hold back Hulkenberg even more as we dive down the inside. Hadjar's not going to fight that too much. He is able to keep in front of Hulkenberg. Thank you very much. That's what I'll be saying over the radio as we're up to P7 on the road. Of course, there'll be cars that have pitted in the meantime as we are back on the onboard of ourselves now, being chased down by Nico Hulkenberg. My engineer's getting on the radio about tyre wear, but we're only a handful of laps away from pitting onto the hards. I'm really not going to change anything. There's no point in even attempting to do that, but I am struggling on these mediums, as you can tell. struggling to make it through that corner, and Nico Hulkenberg, having gotten past Hadjar a couple of laps ago, is really chasing us down now. We really don't have a lot of ERS, so it is only a matter of time before Hulkenberg makes this move. But look at this, he might be making it now as he goes down the inside. We've got like no grip on these mediums compared to Nico, and it's side by side. We break later than he does on the inside of this corner, and we're able to keep the position for now, but it's not going to be long. Nico's going to get a really easy pass right here as a bunch of cars ahead of us are making pit stops. It looks like we'll be contending with the Alpine of Pierre Gasly. So Doohan's done a pretty good job holding us back and other cars, but Gasly is just going to end up behind us for now as our teammate Isaac Hadjar pits. I don't think he's going to end up anywhere big in the grand scheme of things, but he definitely really helped us out for sure in being able to keep up with Hulkenberg, of course, but we're not going to catch up to him anytime soon. Hulkenberg is on much fresher tyres, and speaking of fresher tyres, Gasly, brand spanking new tyres. This is going to be an easy move for him, but I'm going to defend this really hard. I know Gasly's going to be one of the cars that we'll likely be racing against towards the end of the race, so I want to hold him back as much as possible. We're still there in the wing mirrors, as you can see, and we dive down the inside. Gasly has no choice but to give us the space, and we are still fighting him here. But around this corner on the inside with better acceleration, Gasly is going to get the move done finally, as we are now looking to pit. This is our pit lap, of course, so I wanted to hold back Gasly just that little bit more. But yeah, it's been a really, really good stint for us in the grand scheme of things. But now going on to the hards, I've got no idea where we're going to end up. It's going to be our most important stint with over 10 laps to go, of course. So we have plenty of time to make some good moves on the hards. Speaking of this pit stop, by the way, this is the hardest pit lane that I've experienced in the Formula 1 game so far. I couldn't figure out where to brake in practice. So in practice I had to use a lot of flashbacks just to decide where to brake. Luckily in the race I didn't have any issues, but I didn't have nearly as many issues with the pit stops in any other tracks. But with Brazil, definitely a lot harder. But the pit stop went really well, and we are now on to hards. And unfortunately, it looks as though we're going to be coming out side by side with our teammate. This is so inconvenient for both of us, and we're both going to have to fight each other because Hadjar can't afford to just let me by because Sainz in the Williams is right behind him. But we managed to get ahead of Hadjar, not costing each other any time. If we didn't manage to get in front of Hadjar, that would have been disastrous for the rest of our race. But P16 now, as we set our sights on a very, very familiar car. It's Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes. Just in his own race virtually. Hulkenberg's not too far behind us. Hulkenberg is doing a two-stop, so yeah, it's just really bad for him. I think he might have been better off going for a one-stop. He might have really struggled on the tyres, but I think he would have been absolutely fine. I think he would have scored points at least, but I think this pretty much confirms he's not scoring any points as we cement the position of P11 versus Antonelli. So it looks like we'll be battling for P10 in the final stage of this race. Stroll is in no man's land in P10, and that's all we're going to be able to battle for unless there's some engine failures or anything out in front. But speaking of out in front, Fernando Alonso making the move for P2 past Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's going to fight it. The two are going to be well, not side by side. I thought they would be, but Alonso makes that move look incredibly easy. That's P2 for Alonso. So compared to the sprint, that is a huge result for him. And Leclerc, that Ferrari really falling off in the late stages of this Grand Prix. Piastri looking to make the move. Leclerc battling this a lot harder and a lot better, but Piastri I think is going to have DRS, so it's not going to take him long at all to take the position. Leclerc has DRS from Alonso as well, but Piastri's got the inside line here. Still side by side between the two of them, and that is a really aggressive overtake from Piastri right there. I guess he was getting a bit frustrated with Leclerc holding him back right there. As we now move back onto our onboard, a few laps later on lap 30, we are finally caught up to Stroll. So we've had really good pace on these hards. Stroll definitely was doing a one-stop. Hulkenberg still hanging out behind us. So we're going to have to prioritise defending against him going defensive. But yeah, this is it. The battle for P10. So after such a hard-fought race, the only thing we get to battle for is 1 point, unfortunately. But that's how it goes. We had to take the engine penalties at one of the tracks, and I felt as though since we were really good at Brazil in previous games, I thought it was we would be better off doing it there. But maybe Las Vegas would have been a better choice. I don't know. That is the next Grand Prix, though. I'm really looking forward to that one. But we're still having to focus on this Grand Prix as of right now. Albon's not too far up the road. I guess it might be possible. I don't know. Probably not. But all we can focus on right now is Lance Stroll, as we do have DRS. He doesn't have DRS. This should be an easy move for us as we commit to the inside line, and we're going to get the move done. Stroll's going to fight it a little bit here. He's going to dive down the inside through the center S, but we managed to get the move done. He is going to have DRS, so we're going to be burning ERS, trying to get out of the slipstream as well, side by side, but we managed to keep the position of P10, and that is pretty much the end of our race. There's not really much else to say about it. It's just been a really hard-fought race for us as Lando Norris wins the Grand Prix ahead of Fernando Alonso and Oscar Piastri in P3. It's, again, hard-fought P10, but it's a point nonetheless. We still come out of the weekend with something, and that is something to be happy about.
Here's the checkered flag. The fans rise to their feet. It's Lando Norris for victory.
And that's 2 wins in a row now. It's the start of potentially something special, but they can't get ahead of themselves just yet. It's a long way to go.
We had drama from start to finish, but in the end, there was only ever one that could take that top spot. He holds the trophy aloft, and why shouldn't he? A richly deserved win today for Lando Norris.
A huge win for Lando Norris right there. Obviously out of the championship at this stage, but it is still a good result for him and McLaren. They'll be looking forward to the future in that car, of course. Fernando Alonso, huge result for him. Actually, he ended up in P3, so Piastri ended up catching up to Alonso and overtaking him. But still, big result for Aston Martin. They've not had the best of seasons, but yeah, that's a really good sign for us as well, given that we're most likely moving to Aston Martin in Season 2. For us, though, a P10 is not a bad result given the circumstances. It is one of our worst results of the entire season, but it's not too bad. We're still in P4 in the standings. We'll be battling for P3 going towards the end of the season, along with Piastri, Hamilton, and maybe Leclerc. We'll see what happens. But in terms of the championship rivalry, Piastri is pretty much one more point away from winning. The intensity has been increased, but it is pretty much over at this point. If Piastri finishes P10 in any of the future races, it is over. It looks as though we've got a racing rivalry with Lance Stroll, which I should be offended by. A lot of drivers I've seen on Reddit, a lot of players seem to have a ratings rivalry with Lance Stroll, but for us in particular, since we're looking to replace him at Aston Martin, it does make sense. But anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching this episode of F1 25 Career Mode. If you guys liked it, be sure to hit that like button as hard as you possibly can. Next episode will be the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and that's one I'm really looking forward to. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Peace.